The stars above Earth burned with alien fire. Thousands of Velkaran warships surrounded the planet like predators circling wounded prey. Their massive vessels blocked out entire constellations, casting shadows across the moon. It was the largest invasion fleet humanity had ever seen, and everyone knew what it meant. This was the end. Hyunwoo stood at the observation window of the Terran Council building, his weathered face reflecting in the glass. He was 52 years old, and he had spent 30 of those years preparing for this exact moment. His gray hair was neatly combed back, and his dark suit was pressed and perfect, even though the world was ending outside. He watched the orange glow of distant explosions in orbit and allowed himself one deep breath. Behind him, the council chamber erupted in chaos. Politicians shouted at each other, some demanding a fight to the death, others begging for immediate surrender. Admiral Daun slammed her fist on the table, her scarred face twisted in rage. She commanded what remained of Earth's defense fleet, and she was not ready to give up. "We still have 15% of our forces operational," Daun said through gritted teeth. "We can make them bleed for every inch of space they take." Council Chairman Park shook his head sadly. 15% against their full might? We would be sending our people to die for nothing. Then we die fighting, Daun shot back. Better than living as slaves. Hyunwoo turned from the window. His calm voice cut through the argument like a knife through silk. "We will not die today, and we will not become slaves." The room fell silent. Everyone looked at the senior diplomat. Some faces showed hope. Others showed confusion. Daeun's expression was unreadable. "The Velkaran have given us 48 hours to surrender," Hyunwoo continued, walking slowly to the head of the table. "I will go to their flagship and negotiate terms." "Negotiate?" Someone scoffed. "What is there to negotiate? They have already won." Hyunwoo smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Let me worry about that." In another part of the building, young intelligence officer Ji-ho sat surrounded by holographic displays. Data streams flowed past his eyes faster than most people could read, but he absorbed every detail. At 28 years old, Ji-ho was the youngest person ever to reach his position, and there was a reason for that. His mind worked differently than others. He saw patterns where others saw chaos. "Sir," Ji-ho said into his communicator, "the Velkaran fleet positioning is exactly as we predicted. They have pulled ships from 17 outer territories to concentrate their force here." On the other end, Hyunwoo's voice was steady. "Confirmed. Proceed to Phase 2. Ji-ho's fingers danced across his controls. Across human space on 12 colony worlds, silent signals were received. Hidden facilities deep underground powered up systems that had been dormant for decades. Ships that did not officially exist began their pre-flight sequences. Weapons that the galaxy did not know humanity possessed charged their cores. Everything was going according to plan. A plan that had been 30 years in the making. The Velkaran flagship Dominus Eternal was a monument to conquest. It stretched 10 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Empress Velthra sat on her throne in the vast command center, watching Earth spin helplessly below. She was ancient by galactic standards, having ruled the Velkaran dominion for 300 years. Her blue-scaled skin was marked with the scars of 100 victories, and her 3 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "The humans have requested an audience," Commander Torvek reported, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. "Their senior diplomat wishes to discuss surrender terms." Velthra laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "How generous of them. They wish to discuss how completely they will submit to us." She waved one clawed hand dismissively. "Let him come. Let him see the glory of the Dominion before he signs away his species' freedom." Torvek hesitated. He was a warrior who had fought in countless battles, and something about this situation made his combat instincts prickle with warning. "My Empress, the humans have been unusually calm." Their diplomat showed no fear when he made contact. No desperation. "Of course not," Velthra said. "He is trying to maintain dignity in defeat. It is pathetic and admirable in equal measure. But it changes nothing. The humans are finished." Back on Earth, Hyunwoo prepared for the meeting. He dressed carefully in traditional formal wear, adjusting his collar with steady hands. His assistant Bora watched nervously, her young face pale with worry. "Sir," she said quietly, "what if they simply kill you? What if they do not care about negotiation?" Hyunwoo met her eyes in the mirror. "Then you will continue the plan without me. But they will not kill me, Bora." The Velkaran are conquerors, and conquerors love to gloat. Velthra will want me to see her triumph before she forces me to surrender. And then what? And then I will do what I was trained to do. He turned to face her. Bora, how long have you been my student? 3 years, sir. In that time, what have I taught you about negotiation? Bora thought carefully. That the appearance of weakness can be a weapon. That patience is more powerful than force. That the best victories are won before anyone realizes there is a battle. Hyunwoo nodded. Remember those lessons. You will need them in the days to come. Admiral Da-un's flagship, the carrier Indomitable, drifted among the wreckage of the orbital defense platforms. Her bridge crew worked quietly, making repairs and treating the wounded. Da-un herself stood at the command station, studying tactical displays with fierce concentration. Ma'am, her tactical officer said softly. New orders from command. We are to maintain defensive posture and await further instructions. Da-un nodded slowly. Maintain defensive posture. Those are the exact words? Yes, ma'am. She smiled grimly. Those words had a second meaning, one that only a handful of officers knew. Maintain defensive posture meant prepare for offensive action. Await further instructions meant wait for the signal. Everything was coded. Everything was planned. She thought about Hyunwoo, that calm diplomat who never seemed worried even when the universe was burning. She had known him for 20 years, and she had learned to trust him completely. If he said they would not die today, she believed him. Pass the word to all ships, Da-un ordered. Maintain defensive posture. And make sure everyone understands exactly what that means. Her crew exchanged knowing glances. They understood. As Hyunwoo's shuttle lifted off from Earth heading toward the Velkaran flagship, he looked down at his homeworld one last time. Blue and green and beautiful, even with the enemy fleet surrounding it. He thought about all the lives depending on what would happen in the next 48 hours. Billions of humans. Trillions of beings across the galaxy who suffered under Velkaran rule. He thought about the 3 rules. The rules that humanity had lived by for 2 centuries. Rules forged in blood and sacrifice. Rules that the Velkaran did not know existed. Soon Empress Velthra would learn about those rules. Soon the entire galaxy would learn. But first he had to let her think she had won. The throne room of the Dominus Eternal was designed to intimidate. The ceiling stretched 50 meters high, covered in murals depicting Velkaran conquests. Holographic displays showed the worlds they had subjugated, the species they had broken, the empires they had destroyed. Everything about the space screamed power and dominance. Hyunwoo walked through it all with his head held high. His footsteps echoed on the polished stone floor. Behind him came Bora and 2 guards, including the silent Taiyang, who had served as Hyunwoo's bodyguard for 15 years. The young diplomat Bora tried to match her mentor's calm demeanor, but her hands trembled slightly. Empress Velthra sat on her throne, surrounded by her generals and advisors. She watched the human delegation approach with amusement in her 3 eyes. Around the room, dozens of Velkaran warriors stood at attention, their weapons ready. Cameras broadcast this moment to every corner of the Dominion. The mighty Velkaran Empress accepting the surrender of humanity. Welcome, human, Velthra said, her voice dripping with false courtesy. I am pleased you have come to your senses. Resistance would only have meant unnecessary death. Hyunwoo stopped at the base of the throne platform and bowed slightly. Just enough to show respect but not submission. Empress Velthra, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Of course, I am not without mercy. She gestured grandly. You have 48 hours to prepare your formal surrender. Your species will become part of the Dominion. Your worlds will serve our empire. Your ships will be dismantled. Your weapons destroyed. Your people will work for the glory of the Velkaran. Bora's breath caught. The terms were harsh as expected. Humanity would effectively cease to exist as an independent civilization. They would become slaves in all but name. Hyunwoo simply nodded. I understand. We will need time to prepare the necessary documents, to inform our population, to organize the transition of power. Commander Torvik stepped forward, his massive form towering over the humans. You will have 24 hours. Not 48. We grow impatient. 24 hours is acceptable, Hyunwoo agreed calmly. This response seemed to surprise the Velkaran. They had expected begging, arguing, desperate negotiation for better terms. Instead, the human diplomat simply accepted their demands without protest. It was unsettling. Velthra leaned forward on her throne. Tell me, Diplomat, how does it feel to know you are the one who will sign away your species' freedom? Does that burden weigh on your soul? Hyunwoo met her gaze steadily. Every decision weighs on my soul, Empress. That is what makes me good at my job. For a moment, something flickered in Velthra's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps, or curiosity. But it passed quickly. Return to your world. Prepare your people. In one rotation of your planet, you will return here and formally surrender. The galaxy will witness the end of human independence. As the human delegation left the throne room, Bora noticed something. The Velkaran warriors relaxed slightly. The tension in the room decreased. They truly believed this was over. They truly believed humanity was beaten. She glanced at Hyunwoo, but his expression gave nothing away. Back on their shuttle, Bora finally spoke. Sir, those terms are horrific. We cannot possibly accept them. We will not, Hyunwoo said simply, activating a secure communication channel. Jiho, report. On the view screen, Jiho appeared, surrounded by his data displays. Sir, analysis confirms what we suspected. The Velkaran have concentrated 92% of their fleet here at Earth. They have pulled ships from their outer territories, leaving minimal defense forces. Their empire is vulnerable. Show me the fleet positioning. A holographic display materialized, showing the Velkaran fleet in orbit around Earth. Bora studied it, trying to understand what Hyunwoo was seeing. The enemy ships were arranged in a standard siege formation, surrounding the planet completely. It looked impenetrable. Then she noticed something. The fleet was concentrated, tightly packed. All of their forces in one location. If someone wanted to attack the Velkaran Empire itself, this would be the perfect moment. But humanity had no forces to attack with. Their fleet was nearly destroyed, unless they had been lying about that. Bora's eyes widened. Sir, our fleet losses. The reports we sent to the Galactic Council. The casualty figures we broadcast. Were they accurate? Hyunwoo smiled slightly. What do you think, Bora? She remembered her training. The appearance of weakness can be a weapon. We lied about our losses. We reported accurate numbers, Hyunwoo corrected gently. We simply did not report all of our ships. Only the ones we wanted the enemy to know about. Taeyang spoke for the first time, his deep voice quiet. Rule number 2. Bora remembered the phrase from her studies. The 3 rules of human warfare. Established after first contact with hostile aliens 200 years ago. She had always thought they were more philosophy than actual military doctrine. Never reveal your true numbers, she whispered. Until the moment of decisive action, Hyunwoo completed. Jiho, what is the status of the hidden fleets? All stealth ships are in position, Jiho reported. Colony defense forces are at full readiness. Our allies are standing by. Allies? Bora interrupted. What allies? The Galactic Council abandoned us. We are alone. Hyunwoo turned to her, and for the first time she saw something fierce in his eyes, something dangerous. Bora, you have much to learn about humanity. We are never alone. We have been building alliances for decades, secret alliances, with species the Velkaran conquered, with worlds they oppressed, with civilizations they thought were broken. On the view screen, Jiho pulled up new data. The Velkaran believe they control 40,000 worlds. In reality, they control less than half that number. The rest have been preparing for rebellion, waiting for the right moment. We have been coordinating with resistance movements across the entire Dominion. Bora felt dizzy. The scope of what she was learning was overwhelming. For how long? 30 years, Hyunwoo said. Since the day I joined the Diplomatic Corps. Since the day we realized the Velkaran would eventually come for us. We knew we could not defeat them alone, so we made sure we would not have to fight alone. The shuttle docked with the Indomitable, and they were met by Admiral Da-Yun. The scarred warrior looked at Hyunwoo with grim respect. Well, how did it go? Exactly as predicted. Velthra is overconfident. She believes we are helpless. She has concentrated her entire fleet here, leaving her empire exposed. Da-Yun grinned like a predator. Then we have her. Not yet, Hyunwoo cautioned. We have 24 hours to prepare. That is when I return for the formal surrender ceremony. That is when the galaxy will be watching. And that is when we reveal the truth. In her quarters later that night, Bora could not sleep. She kept thinking about everything she had learned. The secret fleets, the hidden alliances, the decades of preparation. And one question kept echoing in her mind. She found Hyunwoo in the observation lounge, staring out at the Valkyran fleet. "Sir, may I ask you something?" "Of course. All of this planning, all of this deception, it must have cost lives. We had to appear weak, which meant we could not defend ourselves as well as we could have. People must have died because we were holding back our true strength." Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, people died. Thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands. They died because we needed the Valkyran to believe we were defeated. They died so that billions could live. How do you live with that?" "I do not," he said simply. "I carry their names with me. Every single one. And I will carry them until the day I die. That is the price of victory, Bora. That is what it means to play the long game. You make choices that haunt you forever. And you live with those ghosts because the alternative is worse." Bora stood beside him, watching the enemy fleet. "What happens tomorrow?" "Tomorrow I go back to that throne room. I walk up to Empress Velthra, and I tell her about rule number 1. What is rule number 1? Hyunwoo's reflection in the glass showed a cold smile. "You will learn tomorrow. The entire galaxy will learn tomorrow. But first the Empress needs to think she has won. Let her have tonight. Let her celebrate her greatest triumph. Because tomorrow, everything changes." In the Valkyran flagship, Velthra did indeed celebrate. She held a great feast, toasting her generals and praising her warriors. The human species would be subjugated. The last major independent civilization would fall. Her empire would be truly unstoppable. Only Commander Torvik did not celebrate. He stood in the tactical center, studying the data from their encounter with the human diplomat. Something bothered him. Something in the way Hyunwoo had looked at them. No fear, no desperation. Just calm acceptance. Warriors knew fear. They could smell it, and that human diplomat had shown none. Torvik pulled up intelligence reports on humanity, their war history, their tactics. He found references to something called the 3 rules, but the details were classified or unknown. Just fragments of information, stories, legends. He tried to report his concerns to Velthra, but she waved him away. "You worry too much, Commander. The humans are beaten. Tomorrow they will kneel." Torvik returned to his post, unable to shake the feeling that they were all missing something important, something dangerous. But the Empress had spoken, and he could only obey and hope his instincts were wrong. The throne room was packed with witnesses. Valkyran nobles filled the galleries, eager to watch the historic moment when humanity knelt before their Empress. Holographic cameras floated everywhere, broadcasting to billions across the Dominion. Representatives from a dozen subjugated species stood in attendance, forced to watch yet another civilization fall to Valkyran might. Hyunwoo entered with the same calm dignity as before. He wore the same formal clothing. He carried only a single data tablet. Behind him walked Bora, Taeyang, and 2 other human diplomats. They moved like people walking to an execution, which in a way they were supposed to be. The throne room had been transformed into a ceremonial space. A signing table stood in the center, covered in official documents. The surrender treaty, written in 43 languages, humanity's unconditional capitulation, ready to be made official. Empress Velthra sat on her throne, wearing her full ceremonial armor. Gold and silver plates covered her scaled body, each piece engraved with the names of conquered worlds. She looked like a goddess of war, ancient and terrible and victorious. "Human diplomat," she announced. Her voice amplified across the chamber. "You have come to accept the terms of your surrender. Your species will now join the Dominion, subject to our laws, our rule, our will. Do you understand and accept these terms?" Hyunwoo approached the table slowly. He set his data tablet down carefully. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried clearly in the massive room. "I understand the terms you have presented, Empress." "Then sign the document. Seal your species' fate." "Before I do," Hyunwoo said, "I would like to tell you a story." Velthra's eyes narrowed. "A story? This is not the time for stories, human. It is a short story, about rules." Hyunwoo looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the watching crowds. 200 years ago, humanity made first contact with an alien species. They were called the Novan Collective. We were excited, hopeful. We thought we would find friends among the stars. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Bora noticed that the entire room was listening now, despite themselves. "The Novan Collective tried to exterminate us," Hyunwoo continued. They attacked without warning. They destroyed our first colony worlds. They killed millions. We were not prepared. We had no warships, no weapons. We were explorers, not warriors. Commander Torvek stepped forward. Empress, this is irrelevant. Make him sign. But Velthra raised one clawed hand. Let him speak. His story will make the surrender sweeter when it comes. Yunwu nodded his thanks. We survived that war. Barely. Other species helped us, species the Novan had also attacked. Together we stopped them. And in the aftermath, we established 3 rules. 3 principles that would guide humanity forever after. He picked up his tablet again, scrolling through data. Rule number 3, never fight with full strength. Always hold something in reserve. Always keep a card hidden. Let your enemy think they see all your pieces on the board when in truth you have an entire second board they do not know exists. Some of the Velkaran nobles shifted uncomfortably. They were beginning to sense where this was going. Rule number 2, Yunwu continued, his voice still calm and measured. Never reveal your true numbers. Let your enemy count your ships and think they know your strength. Let them believe they have the advantage. Let them grow confident. Velthra's hands tightened on the arms of her throne. What are you saying, human? I am explaining why I cannot sign your document, Empress. You see, you believe you have won. You believe humanity is broken, our fleet destroyed, our colonies defenseless. You have concentrated 92% of your fleet here at Earth. You have pulled ships from across your empire to witness this moment of triumph. He touched his tablet, and a holographic display erupted in the center of the room. It showed the Velkaran Empire, all 40,000 worlds with fleet positions marked in red. Earth was surrounded by an overwhelming red concentration, but everywhere else the coverage was thin, exposed. This was very clever of you, Hyunwoo said. Overwhelming force at the point of attack. A decisive show of strength, but it means your empire is vulnerable everywhere else. Commander Torvek was already moving, barking orders into his communicator. Get me status reports from all border systems. Now, Hyunwoo changed the display. New markers appeared. Blue ones, scattered across the Velkaran Empire. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. 3 days ago, when you gave us 48 hours to surrender, we activated assets that have been in place for 30 years. Hidden ships, secret bases, alliance fleets. They are in position now, Empress. Positioned throughout your empire. The room erupted in chaos. Velkaran nobles shouted in alarm. Officers ran to confirm what the human was saying. Velthra stood from her throne, her 3 eyes blazing with rage. You lie. This is a trick. It is no trick, Hyunwoo said softly. Your intelligence services are competent, Empress. Have them check. I will wait. 2 minutes passed in tense silence. Then 5, then 10. Commander Torvek's face grew darker with each report he received. Finally, he turned to his Empress with dread in his eyes. It is true. We have reports of unknown fleet movements in 73 sectors. Large formations. Thousands of ships. And they are not alone. We are receiving reports of uprisings on conquered worlds, rebellions, coordinated attacks on our garrison forces. Velthra stared at Hyunwoo with something close to shock. How? We monitored your communications. We tracked your ship movements. We had spies in your councils. Yes, you did, Hyunwoo agreed. We knew about most of them. We fed them the information we wanted you to have. We showed you our weakness. We let you think you were winning. And all the while we were building, preparing, forging alliances with every species you thought you had broken. He walked closer to the throne. Close enough that his next words were meant primarily for Velthra. Though the cameras still caught everything. You asked me how it feels to be the one who signs away my species' freedom. But I am not here to surrender, Empress. I am here to give you the option to surrender. The throne room fell absolutely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. The idea was so audacious, so impossible, that for a moment no one could process it. Then Velthra laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. You are mad. Even with your hidden fleets, even with your uprisings, we still have the advantage. We still have more ships, more warriors, more worlds. For now, Hyunwoo said. But your fleet is here, concentrated in one place, cut off from your empire. Your supply lines are stretched. Your garrison forces are scattered. And every hour we wait, more species join our coalition. More of your subjects remember what freedom feels like. He gestured to the holographic display. Look at your empire, Empress. Really look at it. You control 40,000 worlds, but how many of them serve you willingly? How many of them wait for the moment they can break free? You built an empire on fear and conquest, but empires built on fear are fragile things. They crack the moment someone shows them the cracks. Bora watched her mentor with new understanding. This was what he had been training for his entire career. This moment, this confrontation. Every negotiation, every diplomatic mission, every careful word had been preparation for standing before the most powerful ruler in the galaxy and telling her that her empire was an illusion. Velthra sank back into her throne, her mind racing. She looked at Commander Torvik. Your assessment? The warrior's voice was heavy. The human speaks truth. Our fleet is concentrated here. If we fight to conquer Earth, we will win, but it will take time. And during that time, we will lose worlds across our empire. If we divide our fleet to protect our territory, we weaken our force here. The humans and their allies could potentially defeat us in detail, so we are at a stalemate. No, Empress, Hyunwoo said. You are at a disadvantage. Because this is not about military might anymore. This is about time. Every day that passes, our coalition grows stronger. More species join us. More of your empire slips from your control. You can fight and you might even win here at Earth, but you will lose everywhere else. He leaned forward slightly. Or you can negotiate. Real negotiations, not a dictated surrender. We can end this war and build something better. A galaxy not ruled by conquest, but by cooperation. Velthra stared at him with hatred and grudging respect. And if I refuse? Then we fight. But before we do, there is one more thing you should know. One more rule I have not mentioned. The Empress waited, knowing somehow that this was the important part. This was the moment the human had been building toward. Hyunwoo's voice dropped to almost a whisper, but in the silent throne room, everyone heard him clearly. Rule number 1, Empress. The first rule, the most important rule. The rule that humanity has lived by for 200 years, and the rule that you broke when you came here thinking we were alone. He leaned close enough that only Velthra could hear his next words, but the cameras, positioned perfectly, caught his lips moving. And later, when the recordings were analyzed, everyone would know what he said. The words that would echo across the galaxy. The words that would become legend. The words that would change everything. Hyunwoo leaned close to Empress Velthra's throne. His voice was barely a whisper, but every word landed like a hammer blow. Rule number 1, humanity never fights alone. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Velthra stared at him, processing the words. Then her 3 eyes widened in sudden, terrible understanding. Hyunwoo stepped back and raised his voice so the entire throne room could hear. And we never forget who stood with us. He touched his tablet. The holographic display changed. The blue markers that represented hidden human fleets suddenly multiplied, and they were joined by green markers, yellow markers, purple markers, dozens of colors representing dozens of species. The display looked like a rainbow had exploded across the galaxy map. What is this? Velthra demanded, though fear crept into her voice for the first time. This is 30 years of diplomacy, Hyunwoo said. 30 years of building trust. 30 years of secret alliances with every species you thought you had conquered. The Telvanni resistance, the core unity cells, the Mishara underground, the Pelvan Liberation Front. 43 species, Empress. 43 civilizations that have been waiting for this moment. Waiting for someone to stand up to you. Waiting for proof that the Velkarin could be challenged. Commander Torvik was shouting into his communicator now, his disciplined demeanor cracking. Confirmed enemy contacts in 112 systems. Multiple species. They are coordinating their attacks. They are hitting our supply depots, our garrison bases, our communication relays. On Earth, Admiral Dayun received the signal she had been waiting for. The code phrase came through on the secure channel. 3 simple words in Korean. The door opens. All ships, Dayun said calmly into the fleet-wide channel. Power up. Full combat readiness. Reveal all hidden units. This is not a drill. Across Earth's orbital space, what the Velkarin had thought was wreckage suddenly came alive. Damaged ships that had been drifting powered up their engines. Debris fields opened up to reveal hidden weapons platforms. Asteroids split apart to reveal ships that had been concealed inside them. The human defense fleet, which the Velkarin believed was reduced to 15% strength, suddenly showed its true size. On the Indomitable's bridge, Tactical Officer Kim stared at his displays in shock. Ma'am, our fleet is showing at 60% operational strength. We have over 3,000 ships powering up. Where did they all come from? Dayan smiled grimly. They have been here all along, hiding, waiting. Did you really think we would let our fleet be destroyed without a backup plan? She activated her weapon systems. All ships target the Velkaran fleet. Firing Solution Alpha, on my mark. In orbit above Earth, the Velkaran fleet suddenly found themselves facing a threat they had not anticipated. The human ships spread out, their weapons charging. They were still outnumbered, but not by as much as the Velkaran had believed. And more importantly, they were not alone. From behind the moon, a massive fleet emerged. Ships bearing the markings of 6 different species. The Telvanni, who the Velkaran had conquered 50 years ago. The Mishara, who had lost their homeworld to Velkaran aggression. The Pelvan, whose entire culture had been nearly wiped out. They had all been rebuilding in secret, preparing for this moment. Commander Torvik felt ice in his veins. Empress, we are surrounded. The human fleet is at 60% strength, not 15, and they have been joined by hostile forces numbering in the thousands. We are outnumbered 3-1. Back in the throne room, Velthra rose from her throne, her body shaking with rage. This is a trick. An illusion. You cannot have hidden this many ships. We did not hide them, Hyunwoo said. We built them. In secret shipyards. In hidden systems. In the dark spaces between stars where your scouts never looked because you were too confident in your dominance. He changed the display again, showing construction facilities throughout human space. We started building 30 years ago, slowly, quietly. We built ships and we gave them to our allies. We helped them rebuild. We shared our technology. We trained their crews. All while pretending to be weak. All while letting you believe you were unstoppable. Bora watched the chaos spreading through the throne room and finally understood the full scope of what humanity had done. They had not just prepared for war. They had prepared for liberation. They had turned every conquered species into a potential ally. They had built a coalition in the shadows of the Velkaran Empire. On worlds across the Dominion, the uprisings were spreading. The Telvanni resistance, equipped with human weapons, struck at Velkaran command posts. The core unity cells sabotaged supply lines. The Mishara underground attacked garrison forces. Decades of oppression were exploding into open rebellion, all coordinated, all timed perfectly. And on the galactic communication networks, the broadcasts from Earth were spreading. Everyone could see the human diplomat standing before the Velkaran Empress. Everyone could see the fleet movements. Everyone could see that the mighty Dominion was vulnerable. Ambassador Yuna stood before the Galactic Council, where she had been watching the events unfold in real time. The council chambers were in uproar. Representatives from dozens of neutral species shouted questions and demands. The council chairman called for order. Ambassador Yuna, what is the meaning of this? Earth was supposed to surrender. Instead, you have started a galaxy-wide conflict. Yuna faced the council calmly. She was 70 years old, a veteran diplomat who had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. Honorable Council, humanity did not start this conflict. The Velkaran Dominion has been waging war for 300 years. They have conquered, subjugated, and oppressed thousands of worlds. We have simply given those worlds the tools to fight back. You have destabilized the entire galaxy. No, Yuna said firmly. We have destabilized a tyranny. There is a difference. She activated a holographic display showing the spreading rebellions. Every species joining this fight is doing so voluntarily. They are not human puppets. They are free beings choosing to stand against oppression. The question before this council is simple. Will you continue to recognize the Velkaran Dominion, or will you acknowledge the rights of these species to self-determination? The council chamber fell silent. It was a brilliant diplomatic trap. If the council supported the Velkaran, they would be supporting conquest and slavery. If they supported the rebellion, they would be acknowledging that the Dominion's rule was illegitimate. Back on the Dominus Eternal, Velthra was receiving reports of the disaster unfolding across her empire. World after world was rising up. Fleet after fleet was emerging from hiding. The empire she had built over 300 years was fracturing before her eyes. We can still win, she said desperately to Torvik. We can crush Earth, we can destroy their fleet. We can make an example of them. The commander shook his head slowly. Even if we win here, we lose everywhere else. Our empire is collapsing. We do not have the forces to suppress this many uprisings simultaneously. He paused, the words clearly painful. Empress, the human diplomat, was right. We are at a disadvantage. Our only option is negotiation. Never, Velthra hissed. I will not surrender to these upstart apes. Then you will watch your empire die, Hyunwoo said calmly. He had been standing quietly, waiting for this realization to dawn. You can fight us and lose everything. Or you can negotiate and perhaps save something. The choice is yours, Empress, but you need to make it quickly. Because every minute you wait, more worlds slip from your control. Around the throne room, Velkaran nobles were already calculating their options. Some looked terrified, others looked thoughtful, considering how they might benefit from a change in power. The empire was held together by fear and strength, and both were crumbling. Velthra looked around at her people, seeing the doubt in their eyes. She looked at the holographic displays showing her empire in chaos. She looked at Hyunwoo, this small human who had somehow orchestrated the greatest military and diplomatic upset in galactic history. How? She asked, her voice hollow. How did we not see this coming? Because you were too busy looking at us, Hyunwoo said. You saw humanity as the target. You did not see us as the catalyst. We learned long ago that we cannot conquer the galaxy. We are not strong enough. We are not numerous enough. But we can inspire. We can support. We can unite. That is our strength, Empress. Not ships or weapons or soldiers. Our strength is that we understand something you never learned. What is that? That the strongest civilizations are not built on conquest. They are built on cooperation, on mutual benefit, on friendship. He gestured to the displays showing the allied fleets. Every species fighting alongside us today is not doing so because we forced them. They are doing so because we helped them when they needed it, because we shared with them, because we proved that there was an alternative to your rule. Hyunwoo walked to the center of the throne room, his voice ringing out clearly. This is not the end, Empress Velthra. This is an opportunity to transform your empire into something better, something sustainable. Join us. Negotiate a real peace. Help us build a galaxy where species cooperate instead of conquer, where strength is measured not in warships but in alliances. He extended his hand toward her. Or refuse and watch everything you built crumble to dust. The choice is yours. 3 months had passed since Empress Velthra took Hyunwoo's hand. 3 months since the broadcast that changed everything. The image of the mighty Velkaran ruler accepting peace terms from a human diplomat had spread across every world in known space. Some called it the greatest upset in galactic history. Others called it the beginning of a new age. Hyunwoo stood in the newly established Coalition Council building on Earth, looking out over the city. The sky was clear. The Velkaran warships were gone, replaced by a mixed fleet of peacekeepers from 24 species. Earth had survived. Humanity had survived. And, against all odds, so had most of the Velkaran. Bora entered his office carrying a stack of data tablets. She was no longer the nervous young diplomat who had walked into the throne room 3 months ago. The experience had changed her, aged her in ways that had nothing to do with time. Sir, the latest reports from the transition councils. 73 former Velkaran worlds have applied for membership in the coalition. Another 100 are in negotiations. And the Velkaran themselves? Hyunwoo asked, divided. Some have accepted the new order. Others are bitter and resentful. There have been incidents. Bora hesitated. Commander Torvek requests additional peacekeeping forces for the Velkaran home system. There are factions calling for renewed war. Approved. Send mixed units. Make sure the Velkaran see that we are not there to oppress them, but to maintain stability while they figure out their future. Bora made notes on her tablet. The trial of Empress Velthra begins next week. The tribunal has finished reviewing the evidence. They are recommending severe penalties for war crimes. This was the difficult part, the part that kept Hyunwoo awake at night. Velthra had ruled with cruelty and oppression for 300 years. Billions had suffered under her reign. Justice demanded accountability. But the newly formed coalition was fragile, and how they treated the defeated would set the precedent for everything that followed. I need to speak at the trial, Hyunwoo said. Arrange it. Bora looked surprised. Sir, are you sure? Many species want harsh punishment. If you argue for mercy, it could be seen as weakness, liar. Let me worry about that. A week later, Hyunwoo stood in the great hall that had been converted into a tribunal chamber. Representatives from 80 species filled the galleries, all watching as the former empress stood trial. Velthra looked smaller somehow, stripped of her ceremonial armor and her absolute power. but her eyes still burned with fierce pride. The lead prosecutor had just finished presenting evidence of atrocities committed under Velkaran rule. The list was long and horrifying. Entire species enslaved, world stripped of resources, cultures destroyed. The chamber was filled with anger and demands for punishment. When Hyunwoo rose to speak, many expected him to add to the condemnation. Instead, his first words shocked everyone. "I speak today in favor of mercy." The chamber erupted in outrage. Survivors of Velkaran conquest shouted at him. Some called him a traitor to all who had suffered. Security had to restore order. When silence finally returned, Hyunwoo continued. "I do not ask for mercy because Empress Velthra deserves it. I ask for mercy because we deserve it. Because the coalition we are building must be better than what came before. Because if we answer atrocity with atrocity, we become no different than those we fought against." He looked directly at Velthra. "You ruled through fear and violence. You crushed those who opposed you. You showed no mercy to the weak. If we execute you now, we prove that your philosophy was correct. That power is all that matters. That the strong can do whatever they want to the weak." Bora sat in the audience listening to her mentor's words. She thought about their conversation on the Indomitable, when he had told her about the cost of victory, about the people who had died to maintain the illusion of weakness. She began to understand what he was trying to do. "But if we show mercy," Hyunwoo continued, "we prove something else. We prove that there is a better way. That justice does not require vengeance. That we can break the cycle of violence." He turned to address the entire chamber. "Velthra must face consequences for her crimes. She must be held accountable. But those consequences should be about rehabilitation and restoration, not revenge." A representative from the Telvanni species stood angrily. "My people suffered for 50 years under Velkaran rule. You ask us to forgive? I ask you to be better," Hyunwoo said simply. "I ask you to show the galaxy that the coalition is not just another empire with a different name. I ask you to prove that we mean what we say about cooperation and mutual respect." The tribunal debated for hours. In the end, they reached a compromise. Velthra would face justice, but not death. She would be stripped of all power and title. She would spend 20 years working to help rebuild the worlds her empire had damaged. She would face her victims and hear their stories. It was a punishment, but also a chance at redemption. When the sentence was announced, Velthra met Hyunwoo's eyes across the chamber. He could not read her expression. Hatred, gratitude, confusion? Perhaps all three. Months passed. The coalition continued to grow and stabilize. Hyunwoo spent his days negotiating treaties, mediating disputes, and helping to build the new galactic government. It was exhausting work, but it was working. The galaxy was changing. One evening, he received an unexpected visitor. Commander Torvek entered his office, no longer wearing Velkaran military insignia. He wore the simple uniform of the Coalition Peacekeeping Force. "Diplomat Hyunwoo," Torvek said formally. "I wanted to speak with you before I take up my new assignment. You are going to be training the Integrated Defense Forces, I hear. That is good. Your experience will be valuable. I came to ask you a question." The former Velkaran commander sat down heavily. "In the throne room, when you revealed your hidden fleets and your alliances, I realized we had lost. But what I still do not understand is why you let us live, why you offered negotiation instead of destruction. We would not have shown you such mercy." Hyunwoo poured tea for both of them, a human custom he had taught to many aliens over the years. 200 years ago, humanity faced extinction. We were losing our war against the Novan Collective. We were desperate. And then other species helped us. Species we had never met. Species who had no reason to care whether humanity survived. He sipped his tea slowly. They saved us. And they taught us something important. They taught us that the galaxy is better when species help each other. When they stand together. When they refuse to let the strong destroy the weak. So you helped others because others helped you. We helped others because we know what it is like to need help. And we know that the galaxy is big and dangerous and full of challenges that no single species can face alone. Hyunwoo met Torvek's eyes. That is rule number 1. Humanity never fights alone. But it is also more than that. It means we never let others fight alone either. It means we build something bigger than ourselves. Torvek was quiet for a long time. My people do not understand this yet. We do not understand cooperation. We only understand hierarchy and conquest. Then you will learn. It will take time. It will be difficult. but you will learn. As Torvek left, Bora entered. She had been listening from the doorway. Sir, that was rule number 1, the complete version. Humanity never fights alone, and we never forget who stood with us. Yes and no, Hyunwoo said with a slight smile. That is part of it. But there is more. What more? Sit down, Bora. It is time you learned the full truth about the 3 rules. She sat, eager and attentive as always. Hyunwoo pulled up a historical file on his display, showing images from 200 years ago. The first human colonies, the Novan War, the devastation. After we survived the Novan War, we gathered all our leaders and asked one question: how do we make sure this never happens again? How do we survive in a galaxy full of threats? And the answer was the 3 rules. The answer was to never be alone again, to build alliances, to help others so they would help us, to create a web of mutual support so strong that no single enemy could break it. He changed the display, showing a complex network of connections between species. Rule number 3 means we always hold something in reserve. Rule number 2 means we never show our full strength. But rule number 1 is the foundation everything else is built on. Humanity never fights alone, Bora recited. Humanity never fights alone, Hyunwoo agreed. But also humanity never lets others fight alone. We stand with those who need us. We build coalitions. We create communities. Because we know that our strength is not in our ships or our weapons. Our strength is in our friends. He looked at her seriously. That is what you must remember, Bora, as you take on more responsibility in the coalition, as you negotiate treaties and resolve disputes. The goal is never just to advance human interests. The goal is to advance everyone's interests. Because when everyone benefits, humanity benefits. When everyone is safe, humanity is safe. Bora absorbed this quietly. The Velkaran could have destroyed us if they had fought differently. Perhaps. But they fought alone. They conquered instead of cooperating. They made enemies instead of friends. And when we stood against them, we stood with 43 species. That was the difference. Across the galaxy, the changes continued. Former Velkarian worlds elected their own governments. Trade networks expanded.